Flyers pregame show on the Flyers Broadcast Network. Here's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, and Chris Terrian.
That's right. Welcome indoors to the Wells Fargo Center. Back-to-back matinees. Today, it's the Flyers versus the Ottawa Senators. Jason Martinez, Chris Terrian, Brian Smith to get you ready for this matchup today. And a very different matchup, Bundy, to the one they had yesterday where you take on a team like Colorado, a bona fide Stanley Cup contender with incredible talent. When you look at Cale Makar, reached 300 points yesterday already in 280 games, and Nathan McKinnon. But today, you cannot take the opponent lightly because in this league, that will bite you. They lost to Ottawa in Game 2 of this season. They need to bounce back with a win today.
Ottawa is the definition of a dumpster fire in today's NHL. They have good players with talent, and they have absolutely no idea how to win.
Audio from those guys at the moment, so we will.
How about that?
Now we got you. There you go.
All right, anybody? All right, there we go. Smitty's on the ball.
Second shift of the game here, Bundy.
As I said, Ottawa is the definition of league dumpster fire, and I say that because they have talent, they have players. This team looks like all they needed was Claude Giroux to come in and put them over the top. They're last place in the conference. They're awful. They don't play with any kind of moxie with the supposed skill they have, and they'll be picking in the top 3 in the NHL draft this year. That being said, you know, Giroux will come back in here. He'll try to put on a show, and the Flyers can't fall into an Ottawa. We want to play an all-star game with our skill and not play hard at all and try to translate that into a win. The Flyers cannot get into that mode at all. They had a team yesterday in Colorado, as we said pregame. I thought Colorado was going to come in here with an attitude. They got smoked by the Bruins, and they were not going to leave Philadelphia or go back out to the Rocky Mountains without finishing off the trip. And they did. I mean, it was tight yesterday for a while in the third. The Flyers, that goalie change definitely worked towards push the right buttons again. But this is a game today where if you want to let Ottawa be cute, you want to let them play an easy game like Giroux wants and other guys want, then you're going to have trouble because they can score on you and they can hurt your team. So that's what the Flyers look for today. If I'm the Flyers today and I'm the head coach, I would literally tell them, boys, go run this team right out of the building. Yeah. They want nothing to do with physicality. And if you go after the head of the snake, they really won't want anything to do with it.
And I think, too, that's kind of it's just been passed along after the Bruins took out Colorado. They got, they had a chip on their shoulder. I think the Flyers are probably the same way here today, that they want to go out and again, just kind of try to cleanse the palate. The one good thing about that game yesterday is that there's another game immediately, pretty much about as close as there can be here this afternoon. They don't even have to sit around and wait for it all day. They just get to come right back out here and kind of
both teams
go after them.
Yeah. Ottawa coming off a loss to Winnipeg in overtime, and the Flyers. It was a weird game yesterday. It was like 7-4 final, but it felt like for that couple minutes, like the Flyers had a chance to tie it in the third.
It felt closer than that.
Yeah,
right?
it did. It felt closer, even though, but at the same time, Colorado did have a pretty commanding lead through the game. 3-0, 4-1, and so but the Flyers again, they don't quit. I just think today Ottawa just doesn't want to play the kind of game that is successful to win. Like if you give them a chance to play like a men's league game, they're going to have success. But the Flyers, as you said, Smitty, like, just come out gangbusters today. Don't worry so much about all the X's and O's in the game today. Worry about your compete level. And if the Flyers handle that today, they'll run over this team. They should.
Yeah, I mean, this team, Bundy, they came into the season trying to take that progressive step forward. Ottawa. I mean, they're 16, 24, and 130. I mean, they're 4 points below Columbus. Now they do have some games in hand, but games in hand only matter if they're wins in hand, and that seems unlikely considering that. But how do you, in a back-to-back where, you face a team that's so high-powered like Colorado, and then you got a team that's a cellar dweller in Ottawa, how do you mentally make sure that you don't take that team lightly?
Yeah, you're going penthouse to the outhouse today if you're the Flyers, and that's the Yeah, it is. And that's the trick to manage that kind of schedule when you're preparing. Because I know yesterday there's a lot of game day preparation that goes into handling the skill, knowing what players do without the puck, where they're going to be, tendencies. Today is not – I don't feel like Ottawa has that kind of structure. And that's why I said if the Flyers play a structured game today, they should have good success. Like I've watched Ottawa a few times. They don't play in a matter of
no structure.
Nothing. Zero structure. They have a couple of guys that have been around a long time that kind of look like they control the team and the mojo of the team, and it's not working. So, and I don't think they've had a coach in there to this point that's going to be able to say, this is not how we do business. This is not how you win in the league. We've had enough high draft picks, one after another, year after year, and we still haven't gotten any. We're going backwards.
They went out and got Chickering because they thought they were a win-now team. That hasn't worked.
They did, and it hasn't worked. Yeah, I mean, and I know Jacob Chikrin's a good player. His dad's a friend of mine and played here, but that had nothing to do with it. That's what they thought. They thought they were upgrading their team to take a deep playoff run, at least this year, and I don't know where that's not happening.
Yeah, I'm again not following it day to day, but I know they had the ownership change, obviously, and then they had the GM change, and they had something to do, I think, with that whole thing where they lost a draft pick or something like that. And I don't know if that whole thing derailed everything or if if it was a flawed plan to begin with. Who knows? But they're certainly not where they thought they were going to be.
No, they're absolutely not. And I mean it when I tell you, like, I'm from there and I know, a ton of Ottawa fans, they really thought Giroux was the guy that's going to put them over and just go win a Stanley Cup. That's what they thought. They honestly thought that that's how close they were.
Yeah, sometimes the delusions
that's
of
good media up
there. Relying on that is when they haven't even made the playoffs is kind of maybe that's their own fault at this point. You look at it and go, that's a self-inflicted wound. But today, Sam Ersson gets the start. He got a period yesterday, came in that third, as you mentioned, Bundy, when Torts made the goalie change. Now, Ersson this season, the first 3 games, he didn't get off to a great start. But since then, he's had 18 appearances. And, Bundy, you've seen goalies go on a heater. He is 12-3-2 in his last 18 appearances, only allowed 32 goals and a .930 save percentage. And let's throw 3 shutouts in there as well. When a goalie's on a heater like that, you just got to kind of leave him alone, let him do his preparation, and keep the heater going, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, and again, people were really, like, you read social media today, people really came down hard on Hart. And I don't think he necessarily deserved that yesterday. Maybe there was one really bad goal, but the other ones, I'm not sure what more he could have done on him. The McKinnon one, but a lot of redirections. That being said, though, the team did respond when they put Ersson in yesterday. And I don't mind Torts doing that because I really did, like him, I felt like, man, we got a chance to win this game if there's a bounce here or there the other way. And there was. It was a really good call by Torts actually making that goalie change because some people just say, let's leave him in. We got another game tomorrow.
Yeah.
But and they would have last year. They didn't have that kind of makeup, and they probably would have left the goalie in. But I think that was a very, very good strategic move. And the other thing I liked about it was coach telling the team, like, you know what, I believe in you guys, and we're down. It's not going to go our way every night, but we're going to give ourselves a chance. And when a guy sits a goalie like that, that's not really a shot all the time at the starting goalie of that game. It's just, hey, guys, you need to wake up a little bit too. And the only way that I can signal this right now is to either bench somebody or change goaltenders. And that was his option yesterday, and I thought he used those cards perfectly.
A little bit of another change, obviously, I guess, with Owen Tippett going out yesterday. It doesn't look like he's going to play today. He did test that ankle maybe. I don't know, lower body injury.
I hate that
he
testing.
Did test
You know if you're going to go or not.
He went out there and took a spin, came off, not in warm-up, so it doesn't look like he's going. Looks like we slot back in Nick Delorier into the lineup. But, a tough time for him to get an injury like that. But, again, next man up type thing, I guess, for the Flyers here today.
Yeah, and it looks like they are going to end up going 11-7 again.
They're warming up 11-7, yep.
Yeah, so they have Zamula. Not really as a fourth, but I mean, if they're going to go 11 forwards and 7D. And they seem to have fallen into that trend a little bit. I'm not sure if it's more of an injury thing. And no Bobby Brink again today, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're going to have to make a decision on him soon.
Might have to send him down, Bundy. Got to play.
I mean, to sit him here and to play him 6-7 minutes in the fourth line isn't going to do him any good.
No.
That was kind of I don't want to say I heard it from anybody, but it sounds like that's kind of the plan that they're going to have to try to use to free up some room, some space, and send him back down to the minors.
Yeah, let him play 20 minutes a night there in all roles, and get it. He's got to play. And right now, you got this bit of a logjam here because you have more defensemen, and you don't want to take a guy like Zamula out. He's on the power play and everything that goes with that. But let's take our first time out. We're getting you ready for Ottawa Senators, Philadelphia Flyers, back-to-back matinees this weekend. Flyers looking to bounce back and grab 2 points against the bottom team in the Atlantic Division, the Ottawa Senators. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
This is the Fanatic Flyers pregame show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Coming up top of the hour, it's the Flyers and the Senators from Wells Fargo Center. Game number 3 of a 4-game homestand, which will wrap up on Tuesday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's Jason Martinez, Chris Therien, and Brian Smith and Bundy. A player like Cam Atkinson went 26 games, longest goal drought of his career. And since then, 4 goals in 4 games, and he just seems to be going to the net. He looks like he's moving better on the ice, and certainly his play has elevated. What does it do for a team when a veteran guy like that, that's very well respected in the room, goes through something like that, but comes out on the other side and starts playing? Does it give a spark to kind of everybody?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because he's kind of like in one of those tweener roles right now. Like, he's not a top 2-line guy, right? Like
the man. Yeah,
he's not anymore, and then that's like he never will be. If he is, and you're probably not going to have a lot of success if those are a mainstay on your top 2 lines. But again, that's a long time. Like 26 games is probably, where a career takes you after. He's had a lot of great campaigns. Don't get me wrong. It's Father Time is undefeated, right? Like that's the way it goes to everybody. So as players get older, their game drops a little bit. But big goal yesterday by him. He's played with a little bit more of an edge. To me, I when I watch a guy like that, I don't care so much what his production is, but how he plays the game. And if he's still doing things that are resourceful enough to keep him on the third line or chip in a goal once every 3 or 4 games, that's what you're probably going to get out of a guy like that. But if your expectations are that he's going to fill the net for you and he's a streaky scorer and he's had a history of it, you need to stop reading past news clips, because that's not what that is right now. I know Torts said the other day, you never know when he's going to go off. All right, great. Those goals when a streaky score goes off are important, because sometimes it's only the difference of 1 goal in a game. But for the long term,
right,
it is what it is. This is what you're seeing right now is probably what you're looking at into the future as well, with him chipping in a goal here or there.
And you're not, again, I think you're reaching the point with him where he turns into, if he keeps playing like a Mark Stahl type thing, where he's not exactly there to necessarily shore up your defense, but he's there to teach the next generation how to be a pro, basically.
Or can play good enough to get rid of him, like to trade him. That's the other thing. I don't know if he wants, if there's an opening, someone says, hey, we could use a scorer, then that's what you're hoping for too. There's plenty of mentors out there, but I'm saying it from a standpoint of a pure hockey. Yeah, you may have an asset. If I was a GM, that's what I would most be hoping for with him right now.
Bundy, let me ask you about that. When you came into the league in the early 90s, you come in out of Providence, born and raised in Ottawa, and you need, that mentor to teach you how to be a pro and kind of show you the ropes. And there's always guys in this sport willing to take young players under their wing. Who were the guys that kind of helped you, realize, what it takes day in, day out, how to practice, how to prepare, and all those things to survive in this league for a long time? Because you definitely, you played a lot of games here. You're the longest tenured Flyer for a long time. So who were those guys for you?
Boy, there's a few of them. I had my rookie year, I was blessed to have great rookies, great leaders as a rookie. Kevin Dineen, Dave Brown, Craig McTavish was here. Desjardins came in, but he became more my friend. He's a couple years older. We became like a tandem, really. But we've had some really, really excellent leaders. I'm sure that I'm leaving a couple out.
Luke Richardson eventually.
Again, but guys my age were more your teammates. But when I was younger, I would say Kevin Dineen, McTavish, and Gary Galley was here my first year. He was a really great guy in Ottawa as well. But yeah, you would suck up the information those guys would give you, and just walk around and follow them. Just watch their mannerisms, watch what they do. Yeah, watch how they go about their daily game day business, practice business, and that's what you want to see from a guy, a good leader.
And it's been really kind of remarkable here, I guess, to watch the guys that are, at the top of the list, I guess, are Couturier and Lawton. They came in here as kids and learned, and now they're on the other side of that thing, and they're bringing in guys, and even guys like Travis Konechny, they're starting to show that side of their game and just bring these guys along.
It's taken a long time,
yeah,
right? But Konechny's had good campaigns earlier, and then his issue was his consistency, right? And this up and down type of game that he played. But yeah, and Lawton again, Lawton, I think he's another guy too that's probably best years are behind him. But I think a guy like that here is invaluable because he is a third or fourth line guy. More likely a fourth line guy that can play with speed and pace and can check. And he's another guy. If you're Briere and Jonesy, you're just looking at where they're at. There's a lot of options. And if guys play well, as they said, they're not going to hesitate to see if they can make a move,
Yeah, Torts talked about it the other day with Ashlyn Sullivan on that piece on NBC Sports Philly, that there is going to be more subtraction. Bundy, facing the Ottawa Senators today, and Claude Giroux, he was the longest tenured captain in Flyers history. But I want to ask you about the captaincy because I've gotten a couple questions on this for Flyers Daily this week. Who's going to be the next captain? When will they name one this season? I think it would be silly to name one this season. You don't change any dynamic with a letter on a jersey. But let me ask you about the captain's role and leadership. We make a lot of people make a big deal out of it. But leadership comes from multiple people in a locker room in this sport. What's your view on captaincy in hockey in today's game?
I think they just give it to the team's best player. That's what I think they do. And I think the coaches look for that. I mean, Torts has actually been very thoughtful with this, but he also came into a team that
didn't have one.
He was extremely broken when he got here. I mean, he had injuries of veteran players, and he decided that Lawton was just going to wear the A. But the teams I played on, we had captains, but I never felt any bit out of the leadership group by the time my third year was there, and right through, Billy Barber's campaign until Hitch came here and he reinvented everything. I was always part of those conversations, and it's always a committee thing. The leader on the team is the guy that you expect a good voice. You expect him to lead both on and off the ice the way you expect a pro to do it, but doesn't always mean that the captain is the voice of complete reason. I've played with some great captains, and I played with Desjardins, one of the greatest players in Flyers franchise history. He's my partner for 10 years. He hated the captaincy. He wanted nothing to do with it. And that just shows. And then there's other guys that get the captaincy because they're the best player, but they never should have it. And then there's guys that are really, I think, like on-ice generals that are true leaders. Like Keith Primo was a good leader. Terms, a lot of guys loved him, but he was a good leader on the ice, and he was made guys accountable.
What's the job for the captain, though, real quick? Is it to be the liaison between the players and the coach and the players and the media?
Not the media. It's usually the coach. When you got a coach like this here, you want a captain, somebody that can voice through it, because when there is no leader, it's pretty much as Torts has done for a year and a half. Now, it looks different this year, but that's more of an authoritarian regime when you think about it. Came in, I'm not naming a captain. I don't even know what I have here. He's been telling guys for a year, I don't know what kind of player you are. With the Owen Tippett, like, you can't hit the net. We're not sure who you are. Same with Cam York. I don't even know if you're an NHLer coming into the year. So there's a lot of little slicing and dicing through this whole course, and it's different than other coaches. Some coaches would want a captain because they'd want a guy that they can kind of have as a buffer as well. But here, that's not the case. The coach doesn't feel he needs a buffer to the team. He is the buffer himself. But on the other side, if you have a coach that's just too much and you have a good captain, it can be a really good thing, because these coaches sometimes don't stop. They just keep going and going and going. And you do need a player sometimes to say, you know what, dude, let's chill out. It's 82 games. And coaches do forget that sometimes. Trust me.
And you do have a little bit of that media savvy side too with it as well, though, because that's the guy that a lot of times they're asking for. Like when the team's in a 5-game losing streak, they're asking for the captain. When the team's 5-game winning streak, they're asking for the captain. And we've seen, I think, some people come through here that didn't like doing that part of it, and it did seem to kind of maybe affect things a little bit, at least in terms of that relationship.
Yeah. And again, every relationship's different, and every coach or every person is going to have a different view of different players. And sometimes that's not fair. It really isn't, and you can be judged for it. And I really felt that was the best part of the captain, is if you couldn't go to the coach and say, hey, something's on my mind. I think it's always a good, healthy thing to sit down with the captain and say, listen, this is just BS, or I like this, or, doesn't mean anything's going to get changed. But it is, I agree, Jason, it's a buffer to the coach, not so much to the media. You know what? The media is going to say what they're going to say anyway. They're going to tell their truths and their falsehoods no matter what. So it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that does matter is really what the messaging is behind those doors.
Right. And the other thing too with it is, and I think, part of Torts being careful about it is, once you give it out, it's really hard to take it back. I mean, you 90% of the time when a captain changes, it's because the old one left. We've seen occasions in other cities where they pull it from somebody, and it always seems to be a weird
creates
situation.
a weird dynamic. Yeah.
I've seen guys get C's taken off and sewed right onto their jersey in a locker room before. So, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, Smitty. Smitty's almost saying that like it never happened. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen a jersey captain get ripped right off, and the other guy with the cameras were brought in to get the C sewn on another jersey. Yeah, that was actually done by the GM. Bring the cameras in. Let's film this.
Yeah. Bring the cameras
point across. Right?
So, yeah, every single thing that you're not supposed to see in pro sports, I somehow have seen.
You've been behind the curtain.
I've been behind that curtain when the curtain had a lot of stuff behind it.
Let's take a timeout. We'll get you ready for Flyers Senators. Great stuff. It is game day with Brian Smith, Chris Terry, and Jason Martinez. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. The Wells Fargo Center. It's the Flyers and the Senators in Game 3 of this 3-game homestand. And no Owen Tippett today for the Flyers. So, Bundy, with the absence of Tippett, obviously an offensive driving force, he had 6 goals in his previous 6 games heading into yesterday's game where he left. But Travis Konechny, going all the way back to the 25th of November, he had 3 games where he didn't have a point. But since then, he has not gone 2 in a row without a point. And over that period, 25 games, he's got 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points, playing over 20 minutes a night. This is a situation where a guy like Konechny goes, okay, we're missing one of our offensive weapons. I scored a goal yesterday. I've been scoring. I got to keep it going because my team's going to need it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he really has stepped up this year. I mean, even last year, he had a great campaign as well. Should have been the All-Star last year for the Flyers also, but didn't happen, and he's had a brilliant campaign this year. He does, even in his gameplay, he does so much more than just scoring goals. He makes much more high calculated plays, high percentage plays with the puck. And he still does have to give up a little bit sometimes to provide that offense. But this is a game today, where a guy like Tippett that provides a lot of the space, he's a big guy. You have to focus on him. That allows a guy like Konechny some open space today, or if he wants to find it. But again, I just feel like this is a game today. If the Flyers really put on their work boots, including a talented player like Konechny, the Flyers win this game today.
And again, with Tippett not being there, I mean, you saw Tyson Forrester get a nice one yesterday, and that's the kind of thing I again, if Tippett's out for any length of time, which doesn't sound like he will be, but if you can get a guy like Forrester going, I mean, that certainly makes that loss a lot more, a lot easier to handle than it would be if he, didn't quite, continue kind of what he's been doing so far this year.
Yeah, he's another guy that just hasn't found a consistent level of scoring. I think the Flyers see something there that have them believe that he's a repeat goal scorer. But he's another guy that won several games as well, I believe, without scoring. And he got a beautiful one yesterday.
Yeah, I think.
So, I mean, again, that when I look at guys like that, pure goal scorers find a way for the puck just to go in sometimes. I don't know how or why. And it feels like, as good as Forster does making good defensive plays, it feels like it's a real struggle for him to score.
He's not here for that, right? He's not here to.
Well, I think they'd like him to chip it. No one ever wants to give anyone off the hook.
No,
but even talking some Flyers, even some Flyers players like that played here are working the team. Now I talked about him, and they like what he does, but they also say you'd like to see some more goal scoring.
Yeah, he was drafted on that shot, and we saw that shot yesterday. I'd like to see him get to a spot and use that shot a little more willingness to take that shot, because that's his
that might be it. Yeah.
The line combinations today: Couturier going to center the top line with Forster and connecting with Tippett out of the lineup. So good opportunity for Forster on that line for sure.
Mm-hmm. Really, I really like that, actually. It's an opportunity to kind of, and he did score a goal yesterday. So, let's see if he can keep doing what he's doing. But I mean, he again, Tyson Forster is a good hockey player. Don't get me wrong. Right now, I just don't feel that kind of scoring is there. It feels like it's forced to try to find him that level of goal scoring. He takes the shots on the, on the shootout. He does some of those. So, I mean, they really think there's a goal scoring prowess there. And I'll be honest, I haven't seen it on a consistent basis.
It's almost like, again, the way the Flyers play the game, that is, I'm not sure if it's more important or less important, just because it seems like a lot of their goals are scored in transition, and some of them, it just sometimes feels like it's just by accident. And, when you're scoring like that, you're kind of mitigating the fact that you don't have some pure goal scorers, but at the same time, it's also not going to be there every night. You're just not going to get all these transition goals every single night.
And that, to me, has been one of the really bright spots of this Flyers team, has been their transition, how they've really when they turn pucks over, man, they go the other way and they play with speed. That's probably the thing when people say to you, what's the biggest change or something you've seen that makes the Flyers team look different than they had in the last 3 or 4 years? And they have a lot of the same personnel. It's the tempo and the speed that they play with, especially in transition. And that's what's been so positive. I can't guarantee they're going to recreate this next year.
No, I don't think they are at all.
And I think they know that, because this is a one-year bag of magic tricks.
Yep.
And we've seen it before. Torts does this. He gets guys to buy in. He does an amazing job of that. But if you could put the same team back out next year, boys, it could be the Ottawa Senators. That's the hard reality of the league. Everyone's trying to get better. And you have to make sure that you're staying up with the Joneses right there. And I think the Flyers understand that. I think they understand that better than just about anybody. So
maybe the Keith
work
Jones.
in progress. Yeah, but again, this is again. Listen, they had a great year.
We can call them right now.
You need to get a win here today against Ottawa, because I believe the Flyers are as good as Colorado. They're not, but I believe a good team doesn't lose 2 in a row, and this is an opportunity for the Flyers to bounce back.
Yeah, this is a game that can lend to an identity. All right, let's wrap things.
The Flyers are good.
Yep. And it'll be the Flyers in the Sens. Stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, countdown to face-off and all the first period action after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.